So firstly, good evening, welcome. Thank you so much for bearing with us through everything that's happened here this evening. English weather is sadly unpredictable. We were hoping to be on the terrace, but there you go. But anyway, this is our first in-person, in real-life Beauty Triangle event in about a year. So it's really wonderful to have you all here. I'm delighted that you've been able to come to Nobu, which is such an amazing opening of late. Nobu, Portman Square. Arguably the chicest sort of Pilates space that I've been in for some time. I'm sure we all agree. But anyway, we're here tonight to sort of talk about how to spring into summer, which is a very bad title considering the weather that we're having outside right now, but UK weather is always unpredictable. But very much we're going to be talking about everything from how to energize the skin and the face to how to shape our bodies and get them into sort of peak performance. But we're also going to be talking a little bit about exercise and obviously Pilates with Marsha being here and the ways that it can really sort of instill a little bit of mindfulness and bring us back into the present day. So I am delighted to have some incredible speakers here with me tonight. We've got Dr. Wassim Taktouk, who is founder of the Taktouk Clinic, amazing aesthetic doctor. Some news on Wassim and Nobu may be coming in a little bit later. I won't spoil that. And also Marsha Lindsay, who is Nobu's creative director of Pilates. We are sadly not going to be joined tonight by Dr. Tracy Mountford. She, about 2 hours ago, got pinged, like many people are right now, and so she's not able to be here tonight. But I think between the three of us, we can totally cover a lot of body-focused content. Wassim has all the machines in his clinic. I've been a guinea pig for absolutely everything, and Marsha is just like body queen, so I think we'll be all good. A couple of things to draw your attention to. You'll have a slightly soggy goodie bag, which is filled with delightful things anyway, so please don't be put off by the fact that it's wet. We've got some amazing skincare brands involved with this evening, everyone from 111 Skin to Bioderma to Institute Esoderm and Revision Skincare. We've also got some real treats from a plant-based performance company, Form Nutrition. They're absolutely delicious, give them a go. And finally, we've got an amazing voucher to come back and have a group Pilates class here as well.
Come and try, yeah.
Please come and try. Do not leave these goodie bags behind, I promise you. They are like gold dust. They're super exciting. You've also, I think, all found your programs and referral cards. So information on our amazing panel and also a couple of little tick boxes. So you can tick a box, leave us your email, and if you'd like to be connected with anyone that you hear speak here tonight, we will do the rest and do that for you. So I think that's it. I'm going to hand over to you guys to say a very quick hello, because otherwise I just talk. But Dr. Wassim, over to you, very quick sort of intro.
Very quickly, is there an extra goodie bag?
There are so many, I know, you just sort of scoop them up.
I'm Dr. Wassim, nice to meet you all. I have been an aesthetic doctor for 12 years now, on the background of being a GP and then an A&E doctor. So this is my latest reincarnation. I recently opened my own clinic in Knightsbridge, the Taktouk Clinic, where I work alongside a professor of dermatology and a consultant anaesthetician, Dr. Faraz and Dr. Judy.
Amazing practitioners.
Wonderful, excellent.
Nice to have them here, but sadly not going to be. And Marsha.
Hi guys, I'm Marsha, so I am the creative director of Nobu Pilates. Thank you so much. This is actually our first ever event, so it's really nice just to have people in our space. But yeah, I've been a Pilates instructor for 10 years now. I'm a teacher trainer as well, so I teach people to be instructors. And then this is the most amazing opportunity to be creative for me, and really happy to be here and talking to you.
It's an amazing title, creative director. Actually, I've never thought about it, but you really do get to obviously apply a lot of creativity to the process. You know, it's not just about the function; it's the artistry of like it as well.
Being in the practice and also like thinking, oh, I'd love to try it this way, and now I've got that format and that forum to do it. So this is an amazing opportunity. I can't wait for you to see it.
Well, thank you very much to both of you for being here. I'm looking forward to seeing some of your moves on the Cadillac later.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody's wondering what the little fuzzy cuffs are. We'll talk about that later.
I know, it's
slightly kinky.
Definitely need a few more cocktails before we branch out into that one. So I'll start with Dr. Wassim, and obviously this is going to be sort of quite fluid because we are missing a person, but we'll cover all of that ground anyway. Tell us a little bit, so set the scene, because obviously we've come out of months of lockdown, Zoom fatigue, all sorts of things in the past, 18 months or so, whatever it's been. What do you think people want from you now when it comes to their skin? Why are they coming to see you?
I think that Zoom phase was a huge thing we all talked about last year. We'd all sort of, as we know, in case anyone hasn't heard of it, it's the phenomenon of staring at your face in not particularly flattering lighting the whole time. And I don't know about all of you, but when I'm on Zoom, I only look at myself. And so I'm always looking at myself in different angles and always a bit disappointed. And we kind of came out of the end of that, but now we're walking into summer where we have a permanent downlight wherever we go. So it's all happening again now. And so we have, a slightly more exaggerated shadowing in our faces. And I think at the moment, I think it's going to continue of that to some degree, where we've kind of been a bit critical of ourselves coming into this sort of summer month. But there are things that we can do. Main things at the moment are really just protecting your skin with the heat that's going on.
Yeah, because I guess obviously that transition from spring to summer, or sort of whatever our weather is doing right now, and also exacerbated by the fact that we're in face masks, we're inside, we're outside, there are so many changes going on with the skin. I mean, from your perspective as an aesthetic doctor, what are the things we need to be doing to sort of switch up our skin in time for summer?
I mean, I'm particularly fond of skin glowing treatments. I think that healthy, although sort of my business is essentially to erase wrinkles and replace volume, I still think that you cannot beat cannot be great skin. In a room full of people, it's the person with the great skin that stands out to me, not the person who has no lines. So I've always been an advocate of great skincare. And I think one of the main treatments that I enjoy doing at the moment is one that's called the Density One. And this is injectable, almost a meso. It's a cocktail of amino acids, vitamins, really potent antioxidants which brighten the skin. So it's got glutathione and alpha-lipoic acid and acetylcysteine, zinc and copper, all these kind of nutrients that we have in skincare really, but skin's a barrier to some degree. So actually when you're able to inject these ingredients into the skin, 3 treatments of that 3 weeks apart produces absolutely beautiful, really healthy glowing skin. And I think that to me would catch my attention in someone more than sort of erasing wrinkles.
And it's a nice sort of first step into doing a lot of these treatments, because I think needles can be quite scary, and we're certainly presented with a lot of cases in the public eye where we can immediately see that somebody's had treatment and it can be very off-putting, but actually the sort of skin booster, the type of treatments that you're talking about, like the Redensity One, are actually just about hydration and baseline skin health, I suppose.
Yeah, I think people are terrified. I think you only ever hear about the bad cases or see the bad cases or point to your friend who had the bad thing done.
Yeah.
But the reality is the really sort of good subtle work is undetectable, and someone just kind of looks fresh. And it could just be a skin booster, or it could be very cleverly placed filler. You don't quite know. And I think that getting the art of knowing just how much is enough is crucial as well, because it's Love Island is on right now, right? So I mean, we know what's out there. We know what people are sort of gravitating towards, and I think it's our role to sort of steer them in the other direction. So
I want to ask you a lot more about sort of Botox and filler and skin boosters and all of that. But tell us a little bit before we sort of move off the topic about summer skincare. And you mentioned protecting skin from the sun, SPF, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you sort of try all sorts, don't you?
Yeah.
And you're not sort of aligned with anyone. But what are the things that you sort of really rate?
SPF. It should be, we have children here, like it should be ingrained into them. It's something that has to be applied. And it's not just once a day, it's 3-4 times a day. And when patients say to me, I'm using SPF 15, I don't understand what the difference is. Like if you're putting that cream on, why isn't it 50? And so, SPF 50 is regularly applied. You sweat through the day, even if you don't have to buy the pool, if you're using that kind of routine by the pool, reapplying. So SPF, it's the only ingredient that's been shown when they did trials on the skin a year or so later. It didn't just make the skin okay, it actually improved it. It starts to reverse the changes, because your skin is always coming out, you're always making new skin. So it's not about just halting things, it can actually improve the skin when you look further down the line. So I know it's not the most sexy answer, but it really is. It's really high strength SPF, and find one that works for you. I think that some are more comedogenic, they can give you spots, some you get ready to. It's fine. Just try several of them. And I think the key is not to find a moisturizer that has SPF in it, almost like an add-on.
Or a foundation.
Or a foundation.
Or
it's to get an SPF that is actually moisturizing for you. And I think that the onus is on the SPF side of it. And I think if you're trying to whittle things down in your wash bag, chuck out the moisturizer and get a really good SPF that's moisturizing. In terms of names, I really like La Roche-Posay's new one. It's in not the Anthelios, the square one, but it's in a tube.
La Roche-Posay do amazing sunscreens,
really good,
particularly for sort of sensitive skin as well.
And HelioCare, they have gel formations. There's sprays. There's many different ways, but I think
HelioCare smell delicious.
Yeah, yes. And they're really nice ones. Revision Skincare have some good ones. Medicate have some good ones. So there's enough of them. I think just find one that works for your skin. And even in the winter in London, everyone was like, "But I've been at home on my laptop." Yeah, but you buy a laptop by the window. Still, UV coming in summer. It's an all-round thing. It just needs to substitute a moisturizer. So
I think that's what I always hear from people. You know, you ask them about SPF and they say, yeah, but it's not sunny.
Yeah.
And actually it's got nothing to do with being able to physically see the sun. You know, that visible light gets through the clouds, doesn't it? The UVA, the UVB, it ages, it burns.
Yeah.
I always remember the two.
UVA aging, UVB burning. That's what each one does.
And don't be like Gwyneth Paltrow and use it as a highlighter or whatever she was doing recently. Not good. But it's interesting that you say check out the moisturiser. I don't even use a moisturiser because actually I think by the time you've had the skin boosters, you've used all your lovely hydrating serums, you've put your SPF on top.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes your skin doesn't need it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's seasonal. I mean, obviously other things like hyaluronic acid, if it works for you, some people find that quite drying to their skin. That's important. And obviously, you know, targeted skincare. So if your skin needs, you know, if you have sort of rosacea type things, niacinamide and things like that are great ingredients. So there's different things, but I think the ultimate, the goblet of fire is your SPF.
Goblet of fire.
Until I read Harry Potter.
Great analogy. So you were talking a little bit earlier about sort of the Botox and the filler and the injectables and the sort of artistry, I suppose, of knowing how much is enough. And maybe that's something we can sort of think about a little bit more because it's certainly an amazing way to energize the skin and the face. But how do you sort of create that sort of flawless, undetectable result, which is obviously what everyone, I think, most of the people, you know, want.
I think a lot of the mistakes that happened with fillers and why we saw these overfilled faces, these kind of slightly, you know, not being true to someone's natural aesthetic, is because we didn't really understand aging that well. And I remember 12 years ago sitting, I learned how to do fillers a long time ago, but what I was taught there is absolutely not what I practice now. Nothing near it. And we didn't have that much of an appreciation of the aging face. And the face has 5 layers, and the bone is at the bottom, and your skin is at the top, and there's, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, fat and muscle. And it's aging that happens in every single one of those layers, starting from the bone, that has a knock-on effect onto the layers above. And when you understand that, and you can identify what's happening in someone's face and where the changes are happening with the aging, you can actually very cleverly inflate certain areas in the face, whether it's a fat pad or augment, almost put some layering onto the bone, and it will transmit its effect onto the surface of the skin, where it won't look unnatural, where the shadowing and the light looks natural to the person, and it will have a knock-on effect to the skin. So it starts with an understanding of how our face is aging. It's also really important to, and I do this. I make my patients literally crawl out and go through Facebook in front of me and find me pictures of them 10, 15, 20 years ago. Because I like to watch their face, and because it's all fine, you know, everyone do temples. But if you haven't had temples before, your face is going to look round. So you have to also be respectful of someone's natural aesthetic, and you have to be able to analyze them and see, yes, there are tricks that we can do to make you look younger, but they still have to look like you.
You have to be careful not to fall into the trap where you just follow ratios and codes and trends and fox eyes and whatnot, because actually every face is unique, and that's the beauty of being an aesthetic doctor. You know, you bring out the best in that patient.
Yeah. It's not about reproducing sort of conveyor belt patients.
Yeah.
And I think there was a trend. I think the trend is shifting. I think that people do want more natural results. The younger generation, you know, there's a lot to be answered with them because things like Love Island don't really help our cause. But you know, people are much more wary of understanding fillers now. You know, there are fillers now that mimic your natural fat in your face that move and stretch. And you know, Zoom all year we spent ourselves. Who watched? You know, you get ready, you look in the mirror, and you're like, and you leave. But now you're like, no, and you're watching your face moving the entire time. So you're going to be much more conscious of a filler that is not moving naturally with your face. And so you have to use a dynamic filler. And the fillers now, they're so smart that, you know, you squeeze it out of a gel and you can see it stretch. And that sounds a bit elastic now, but it's incredible when you smile and move. It's just undetectable. So it's also
rather than
the
making
text
that
of the
facial
rheology.
expression and everything sort of is stuck in the wrong place.
Totally.
And you've got sort of fillers that even mimic bone, don't you? So there's a lot of sort of work going on with chins and jawlines, which sounds really counterintuitive that female faces would obviously want volume added to their lower face. But I mean, I have it done, sort of some filler in my jawline and in the front of my chin, just to balance everything. And it's a very sort of intelligent formulation, I suppose.
Absolutely, and it's as we I don't want to say as we get older. As we grow up, the sharp angle of our jaw becomes a bit more rounded, and so all the tissue that's kind of been sitting there and pegged on that jaw starts to kind of make its way down. And the trick with a female patient when it comes to volumizing the jawbone is not to put it here to masculinize them and bring it out. It's to actually pin the filler right at the back almost you're trying to rebuild that right angle. So you're layering droplets along the bone back here to eventually pull the tissue back, and then a tiny bit of the chin, it just makes it a bit taller. So yeah, I don't know if that's what you were saying, but I totally hijacked that.
No, I
took
totally,
it in my own direction.
No, I totally love your whole description of how it all works. I mean, all of this becomes quite technical, doesn't it? And there are lots of, and you don't do this at all, you know, there's not too much sort of medical jargon, but I suppose how, and you're doing it beautifully already, but what's your trick to, I suppose, educating consumers and trying to break down a lot of this sort of jargon that always gets used so that people actually understand what these treatments do and don't just sort of glaze over?
I think you know, things like hyaluronic acid, the minute you say that, then everyone thinks Profilo is the same as Regency, is the same as fillers, and I think that's, some people here when I did a talk Annabelle, so I'm sorry if I'm repeating this, but I use food analogies for pretty much everything. And if you think of spaghetti as each spaghetti strand is a hyaluronic acid chain, and when you boil spaghetti, it absorbs water, so it becomes a bit plumper. And when you really overcook it, it kind of glues together. So you can take it out of that crap spaghetti you made, and you can't really pull it apart when it's really overcooked. That's what filler is. So you're injecting that gel, it draws water, it's all chemically bound together, and it stays put where you want it. Whereas if you have Profilo, we have things like Regency 1. This is the spaghetti that was al dente, right? So when you put it on the table, it kind of goes everywhere. So when you inject it in certain points, it spreads through the skin because it's not chemically stuck together and draws the moisture along the way. So I think when you kind of explain that, because the minute you say sort of Profilo or Regency 1, people say, oh my God, that's filler, I don't want it.
Or they go, what's that? And you know, a Redensity 1 versus a Profilo, I mean, I have to remind myself half the time what these things are, and I write about it on a regular basis, but it's difficult otherwise.
Yeah. So skin boosters are made of hyaluronic acid, it's just the way they're cooked. One is cooked to stay put, and one is cooked to spread through the skin. So Profilo and Regency 1 are the ones that spread and give you the nice, healthy, dewy texture, skin glow, all that kind of stuff. And the fillers are the cooked ones where they're injected, they stay put.
And the skin boosters are obviously much more superficial. You spoke about the filler being very deep on the bone, whereas skin boosters are very much sort of like almost like carpet bombing.
Yeah, you need to take a day. You need to, you know, when you have Regency 1, it's a course of 3 treatments. After the first, you know, time your first one like on a Monday night. Don't do it on a Friday, and just see how long the bumps last on you. And if they're gone by that evening, then you're fine for the other ones to do them at a you know, a weekend or whatever. Profilo, you have 5 big blobs, and Regency 1 lots of small ones. But you know, some people, the swelling it can be very, very minimal on some people. On the other hand, some people can really look like they've been attacked by a swarm of bees. So
I think particularly if your face retains a lot of water, they say, you know, if you're prone to sort of fluid retention, then maybe the swelling as well. So I'm not sure. I think timing is so important, and actually it's really sort of a crucial topic at the moment with people booking in for vaccines as well, because you know, having dermal fillers, I don't know if it's skin boosters so much, but definitely dermal fillers. You want to be careful if you're booked in for your second, you know, COVID jab at some point, don't you?
I mean, they did. To be fair, they did sensationalize that a little bit. I think it was.
Did they? I mean,
I started
3 weeks.
I think it was like 30,000 people. Yeah, I think it was like 30,000 people, and 3 people had mild swelling, and you know, like. I think they took Benadryl or something and it was gone. I mean, it wasn't that easy, but it wasn't as bad as they made it out. But I think, you know, once one thing is reported, we all have to be ethical and safe, and so we need a 3-week window. But I don't think it was as worrying as we thought it was. But you know, it's always best to have safe practice. See how I reeled that in. Very important.
That is a relief. And then you've obviously got some amazing practitioners working with you, Dr. Judy, or sort of Morpheus Aquin, and then Professor Faraz, who you mentioned earlier as well. So how does their approach fit in with what you do? Because they're very much more devices and machines and the whizzy stuff.
I think between the 3 of us, the goal of my clinic is skin. Although I do injectables, and so Faraz will come in from a much more sort of pathology side of things. So he'll see your acne, your eczemas, your skin disorders that, you know, require really a professional dermatologist. Yeah. I think a lot of the times, you know, the aesthetic industry is becoming quite saturated, and sort of, you know, now a dentist is a skin specialist. Well, no, not really. Like I'm pretty old school, and I would like to see a professor of dermatology if I had the chance. So I think that's who I would want to go and see. So I think he does that side of things. He also does a lot of laser work. He's a bit of a whiz. His suite, his room that he works in is like the Harrods toy department, and he has sort of he's got sort of he helps with thread veins in the face, rosacea. He's very good at skin resurfacing for pigmentation, and you know, trickier things like hyperpigmentation, darker skins is you know, it's not an easy one, and I think you need to go to someone who's sound in their knowledge base.
And I think it's nice sometimes, because if you go to somebody like Professor Faraz and you then address those baseline sort of health skin conditions, then it means that maybe you don't need to do so much of the heavy lifting when it comes to actually injecting.
1,000%.
You've got the skin into a beautiful condition, and therefore you're probably sort of halfway there.
Absolutely. And then we have Dr. Judy. Dr. Judy was I'm sure everyone heard or saw the Judy Murray transformation, Andy Murray's mum. That was the work of Dr. Judy, who is incredible with Morpheus 8, and that was a combination of that with a Derm, which is great for pigmentation as well.
That's a topical sort of skin regime, the Abagi.
Absolutely, you do in the lead up to it, and then she does Morpheus 8. Morpheus 8 is, microneedling. It's pretty much the same thing, but at the end of each of those needles, it lets out a radio frequency, and it just tightens up the collagen. So it's a really great skin tightener for the face and for the neck.
I love the Morpheus 8.
Yeah.
So good. I'm not a huge microneedling fan, but actually, as soon as you channel some proper radio frequency through it, wow, you see results.
Yeah. It's quite impressive, and I mean, her results speak for themselves. That was incredible.
Front page news. I think that
was a big piece. Our front of house didn't quite like that because the phones didn't stop. I was like, hey, Julie.
I've got a 3-month waiting list, please don't.
But it was a nice piece, and it was an incredible transformation. So that I think the idea is that you come in. For me, my clinic is that you come in and you shouldn't have to go anywhere else. I also, when you refer people to specialists, they get lost in the process. They can't get hold of this person. People lose interest. People lose steam, and sort of we kind of have them. We've got you now. And we will sort this out, and we'll get you seen by everyone, and then you sort of, when you exit, it's all kind of taken care of. And I think that's, I wanted a team that the three pieces together just achieved what I wanted. So, and that
beauty triangle.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Sorry,
I was going to say that. So yeah.
No, it's a beautiful clinic. It's such a beautiful clinic. The patient journey is incredibly seamless. You sort of feel like you're the only person in your clinic when you go in there, which I absolutely love. As elegant as a 5-star hotel. You've done a beautiful job. Just sort of to finish up on the sort of skin front, what's the most immediate way to energize the skin or the face, would you say? Because sometimes we talk about these treatments and we sort of say, okay, you'll see best results in 3 sessions over the course of 3 or whatever it might be. Is there anything that can quickly turn the skin around in time for summer?
I think Redensity one is quite a good one. It's not too. I mean, aside from the downtime of that, the spots on your face for a day, it's pretty quick in terms of getting that skin glow. The glutathione is really great at brightening the skin. Yeah. So I think that's a quick one. But it is 3 sessions, but you'll still get a result out of 1.
Exactly.
And so you'll have a result within 3-4 days afterwards. So that's pretty quick.
That is exactly what I'm coming back to see you for next time I come to a clinic. And then let's move on to body. So obviously we're sort of we have Marsha, who's obviously sort of creative director, body queen. And then I think between us we can. I know, exactly, body queen. I've just sort of made that up on the hoof, but I think it suits you. But I mean, maybe this is a question for both of you. Maybe Marsha, I'll throw it to you first. But what do you think, sort of, as we do go into summer and the seasons are shifting? What do you think we're all looking for from our bodies right now? I mean, what are you seeing from your clients that come into the studio?
I think it's just the fact that we've been a little hidden. Like, most of us haven't touched like 80% of our wardrobe. For example, I always in sportswear, so it was just a treat tonight to put something different on.
So you found it very confusing to know what I literally don't have to dress myself anymore.
Like, okay, clothes, what? And our bodies have changed slightly, whether that's sort of posturally or just composition-wise. So I think it's either people are looking to get back to like where they were comfortable before, or just to tone up and tighten up, knowing because it's summer and whatever holidays or we're going to go on. I just think generally people want to get back to what they were doing.
Yeah, that tightening and toning. And probably quite a nice opportunity for us to sort of talk about the treatments and the machines that are going to help us get there before we dive into a wonderful world of Pilates. But obviously we've got sort of some really interesting, intelligent technology right now. I mean, Dr. Wassim, from your perspective as an aesthetic doctor, what are the sort of machines and the devices that you think are sort of helping us to get that sort of shape and that tone back to the body?
I mean, I think that has to be the Sculpt Neo. So that's kind of the big player at the moment. Sculpt is a machine that was actually released a few years ago, but now has been revamped to have an extra added benefit, which is a bit of fat busting.
I actually had this afternoon on my arms, so I can barely lift my arms. So they feel like it basically sort of gives you the equivalent of, I think, 20,000
sit-ups.
Yeah.
I don't think I've done that in my life.
I don't think you have ever. No, the body is like physically incapable of doing that.
So it's interesting because it does. We were talking about DOMs. So it does sort of. It doesn't do like do like as if you're doing it. It goes. And you're like, oh, like I imagine labour pains, and then it goes, and so it does all these different contraction patterns, And so it's, it's allowing blood to come into the muscle in between the contractions and relaxing. And it's quite impressive.
It's really, really interesting, and actually I love your sort of description of it.
But I was the first time.
But it's not painful. I would say it's just a very intense feeling. I mean, when I had it done to the backs of my arms, like involuntarily, you cannot stop from convulsing and contracting because the muscle is just being. Yeah, exactly. And they do also say that it works the muscle to 100% of its capacity versus I think the 30% that our bodies might naturally do. Marsha, you'll be able to tell us this as somebody doing exercise. After a while we just switch off, don't we?
Fatigue kicks in pretty quickly. So something like that sounds like you're getting faster and bigger results.
And what do you think the areas, maybe this is one for you, Marsha, again, of our bodies that, as women, because I think we're all women here, apart from Pavel, concern us the most? I'm sorry, I didn't really think of you, I was looking at the audience. We'll come to you next. I think we're all on the same page.
I guess from the clients that I've met and over the years, I've definitely noticed like the abdominal area for most women is a cause of concern, definitely for me as well. It's something I focus on a lot, and that's why Pilates is perfect for me. I'm very lucky that I get to do it every day. But yeah, just kind of around the sort of trunk area, whether that's around the bottom or the ab area.
And that sort of stomach area I find so interesting in women anyway, because it's sort of a very vulnerable area. If you think about all of your vital organs going on sort of behind there as well, it's very emotional. I think a lot of our sort of emotion is held in our sort of gut, in our stomach, a lot of anxiety. And it's obviously that sort of part of our body that changes so much as well over time. And so anything we can do to sort of shape and hone that. I mean, obviously you have techniques, treatments such as cool sculpting. Is that one that you offer in your clinic?
I don't.
One that you know anything about?
I do know. I mean, cool sculpting. That again, there's a newer version. There's the cool sculpting elite now, but cool sculpting is cryolipolysis. So this is essentially taking pockets of fat. And I will say this about cool sculpting. I think it's only suitable for someone who has a stubborn pocket of fat. It's not a substitute. You don't cool sculpt your whole body. It's someone who's been plateaued in their weight, but has genetic for whatever reason, let's say has some love handles, they can't get off. That's your ideal candidate.
They used to say if you can pinch an inch. Then it will sort of go into that little suction-y sort of applicator and freeze it and hopefully do away with it.
I think it's something like 30% of your fat cells are gone permanently, but again, there are still 70% of them there. So you have to also be sensible, and it's not for someone who isn't going to be quite strict. And so I would only ever reserve that really for someone who is quite plateaued in terms of their weight. I think
it's sort of the icing on the cake at the end of all of it, isn't it? Once you've done all the Pilates with Marsha, and you still can't quite touch it, then it's up for cool sculpting.
And Tracy does a lot of that at Cosmetic.
Dr. Tracy Mountford does some amazing cool sculpting. I think she was the first person to launch it in the UK. Goodness, however many years ago it launched. And she is the absolute sort of expert when it comes to that. But what do you offer at your clinic that's sort of more body focused for that sort of final
I think so. That would be in the hands of Dr. Judy, and Dr. Judy does treats with a machine called Body Tight. There's a face version and then a body version of Face Tight and Body Tight. Surprise. And this involves how squeamish are we? I want to hand a bit to eat. So it's a needle that is inserted underneath the skin, and then it's heated up and basically emits radio frequency, and it melts the fat around it. So she's got some really quite exciting before and after.
I think they do actually compare it to surgical results in many cases.
Yeah.
Albeit you don't have the sort of scarring, and I think the scars practically disappear because it's a tiny little sort of needle incision.
Yeah.
And then obviously it's sort of a couple of sessions. We'll have to get sort of the intel from Dr. Judy about this one.
She's incredible with it as well. She's her before and afters on Instagram they're quite something, but not for the faint-hearted.
Yes, I can imagine.
I'm the biggest baby, by the way, when it comes to the machines. Terrible.
I would not have thought that in the slightest. I mean, interesting, when we were talking about the M-sculpt, and that's obviously contracting the muscles, and I think, Marsha, it's quite interesting maybe from your perspective, because, getting into this mindset where actually we're sort of prioritising strength over, just sort of losing weight and freezing fat and sort of, trying to see the numbers go down on the scales.
Yeah.
Is that sort of something that you feel is sort of becoming more prevalent? We are speaking in a more positive way about strengthening as women particularly.
Oh, definitely. I think we've always, like most of us, definitely focus on visually, like how we look in the mirror or what the scales say, but I definitely think people have more of a whole approach to wellness now, so it's more about how well you can move forever, how long you can maintain how you look for longer. So yeah, I can definitely see the shift in that now, and it's really, really nice to see, because, you know, I did used to have some clients that would come in and the stuff that they would write on their form, that would be maybe something like, I just want to lose like a tiny bit of something here that I couldn't see. But obviously I'd have to honour that, because that's personal stuff. I have stuff that I can see that other people can't. But it's definitely shifted now, and people come in and they maybe it's a sports related goal, maybe it's like a post-pregnancy goal. But what I see on the sheet now is definitely something that's more meaningful for both of us, and that's something that I enjoy working with. So yeah, it's definitely been a huge shift.
And it's nice, I think, if we sort of consider the landscape that we're in right now, you know, sort of pandemic, and just wanting to be strong and fit and healthy and resilient more than anything else. You know, building that muscle and having strong bodies, at the end of the day, they're going to carry us through all of these things, aren't they?
Moving for longer, living for longer, and that's what's important.
I totally agree. What about when it comes to the skin that's sort of sitting on top of the body? I mean, is there anything that we can do to address that as time goes by?
Well, yeah, Profilo is actually getting. Obviously, it was originally a treatment for the face, but there are protocols now for the body, and I've seen some
Profilo
really
body launches in September, I think.
And it's you know, sort of the crepey skin, anywhere where there's crepey skin. Where think of it's almost like an analogy's awful. It's like sort of a raisin versus a grape, right? So when it's kind of crinkly and it's flooded with moisture, it becomes plumper. And it's the same kind of principle when you inject Profilo in certain areas where the skin is a little bit crepey. That plumpness and hydration of the skin actually stretches those lines and makes it a bit more you know. Just look less wrinkly. I was trying to think of a good word there and I can't. So it's you know, skin on the knees, elbow skin, skin that's crepey here, around the tummy if there's any kind of crepey skin around there. Again, it's been showing some
I had
really
it
nice
sort of on my
results
décolleté, sort of in between my boobs, and I don't know if any other girls get this, but you know, you sometimes wake up in the morning and you have those vertical sort of lines,
Absolutely.
and it's really nice for softening that. There's some really good results on the neck, those sort of necklace lines that you can get, which aren't even, you know, sometimes they're just genetic. I sort of know sort of fairly young girls who sort of have those as well. And the backs of the hands Profilo
Backs of the hands is very good as well.
I think that was a huge thing post-lockdown, you know, when everyone was like slapping the sort of hand sanitizer on it, the skin was so dry.
Skin barrier,
Exactly. All of those things are so good. And does Dr. Judy or Professor Faraz, do they have any sort of skin tightening wizardry that?
We do a fair bit of necks actually at the clinic. So so Judy's able to do Morpheus 8 down the neck. So that's again, remember the one with pins with the radio frequency. That's quite nice. Morpheus 8 and Profilo as a combination treatment is very good as well. And then Dr. Faraz has ultraformer. So this is using technology ultrasound, which goes down to the muscular layer of the skin. And again, that's quite nice for tightening the skin. You know, as with all of these things, it's you know, you do have to try different modalities sometimes, and sometimes it's a combination of the two. It's not just one in isolation.
I think that's such a good point.
Yeah. So sometimes, you know, Morpheus able to get a great result, but with Profilo, it totally elevates it to a different level. So sometimes you just have to have someone who's au fait with all the different modalities and can sort of select and adapt it to your skin type.
I think it's a really intelligent point, and actually one of the main reasons that we started the Beach Triangle was to sort of encourage these very holistic conversations. Exactly as you've said, there's not just one single thing that addresses an issue. You know, what you're doing in combination with what your practitioners are doing, in combination with what Marsha's doing on the Pilates reformers, that's how you get sort of results and you know, things that are sustainable at the end of the day as well. Let's talk a little bit about Pilates, because, you know, queen of bodies over here is desperate.
I've learned about 50 things from you. I'm trying to.
He's so endlessly fascinating.
So many questions about me. You explain things so well. We were talking about this earlier, how he just explains it so well.
Thank you.
Particularly that pasta analogy.
Yeah,
I
get it now.
You should get his hamburger analogy. You
talk to me about carbs, I'm in.
The way to everyone's heart. Yeah.
Totally.
In terms of Pilates, Marsha, obviously sort of we spoke very loosely on sort of the benefits and why we all want sort of strength right now, but what are the other benefits that we can all get from sort of adopting some sort of Pilates-based exercise in the here and the now?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, especially coming out, and I don't want to make it about COVID all the time, but you know, it is something that we've just come out of and it's here for a little bit longer. And I think what you're getting from Pilates is definitely a well-rounded physical fitness experience, but one of the most important things for me at the moment is that we need to concentrate or focus more or give attention to breath work.
So true.
This is something that COVID
I was told this the other day, just by my osteopath, I don't breathe.
Right.
Apparently ever.
And I think that was a problem. I've had that in class and I'm like, But you can breathe. I know I'm throwing like 10 instructions at you, but also breathe, that's right. But we need to be reminded, we need to be taught how to do it properly and deeply. And especially knowing that COVID has really severely attacked the respiratory system and long COVID is happening to people. I think it's a really good place to, it's humbling and it brings people back to this foundation that we all have to learn this together. And actually it's going to help improve anything that you do. Breathing is life. So I think that is my biggest thing that I'm pushing out there at the moment with Pilates. I mean, there's so many benefits, especially sort of posturally, and just finding smaller muscle groups that you might not have connected with before. There's just so many juicy things that you can do.
But the breath work is so integral, exactly as you say,
Yeah.
and at the end of the day it's free, so it's a brilliant way just to get our bodies back to where they need to be.
Yeah.
Sort of in terms of actually the mindfulness quality that it gives you as well. I mean, your breath can very much help bring you back into the present, which I think is obviously a very helpful thing for us to be doing right now.
Yeah.
It's almost like a meditation, I suppose, in the way that you sort of have to be so controlled on the Pilates bed.
Definitely. The breath work is mixed in with movement, and you have to be centered and you have to concentrate to work them in sync. And it's a nice selfish moment for you. Like when you come and do a session for an hour, you're not allowed to think about what's happening on your work email or what your kids are doing. It's all about your mind and your body and connecting in that moment. And that's really priceless. I don't think people give that enough time. And if you don't know how to meditate, because I struggle with that myself, Pilates is a form of that. But just mind-body connection.
I think meditation can be anything that forces you to sort of switch off, and actually that enables your mind to go blank and still, and like you say, it takes you away from what's going on with your work emails and what your kids are doing and where you need to be in half an hour's time, and you have that moment. It's very important in the here and the now to integrate that. Tell us a little bit about posture, because obviously that is a huge sort of cornerstone of Pilates, and you know, why again are we sort of so, I suppose, so in need of things that are going to sort of fix our alignment?
Everyone adjusts themselves.
Very straight.
Even if I had a little moment like slouching, that would be embarrassing.
You're like upright like a ruler. I'm like trying to be more like you.
It's so important. It was always important, but now I think we're really feeling the effects of it. We might have had a suboptimal desk setup situation. We might have been zooming a little bit too much. Maybe we're driving around more than we used to. We're all a little crouched. And
staring at our phones.
Staring at our phone. Oh my God, technique.
We're all going to grow like an extra vertebrae from, like being like,
it's
it's awful.
And I especially do look at, actually, it is the younger generations that are here. And we just need that awareness. And it's a simple bringing everything back up. It's so important because when you look at the body, it's like scaffolding, and if part of the scaffolding is weak, then it's going to affect other parts of the body. So basically that's how I look at it. I train the body, I try not to overcomplicate it, I look for balance, and I just try and realign that balance and know that you are going to be stronger and more resilient from that. But yeah, posture is everything. It also brings us to it connects back to the breathing. So if you're here, you're not quite breathing fully, but if I can bring you here, the capacity is already opening up. So those two things are already linked wonderfully.
I love your analogy for scaffolding as well, because it's so often how aesthetic doctors, talk about the face as well, the scaffolding and making sure.
Scaffolding, yeah.
You always get building analogies thrown in with aesthetic medicine. I think food is way more fun.
I like that.
But it's so true, when everything is stacked in the right place, obviously the energy can flow through as well, and that's how you're going to energize the body.
Exactly, yeah.
And get the breath moving.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the posture scan that you do, because I think that's a really clever way of actually not just, because it's very easy to talk about posture and sort of say it's very important, but actually you take it one step further and you do these amazing assessments for people.
Yeah. And that's something that, again, I've been blessed to have a really creative position, and I've been able to explore some things, and over the years a lot of people would come to me, like I told you, with these physical things that I just thought that's not as important as like the hip alignment that I can see, and if we could work on that, the other stuff will come. So I wanted a positive way to measure progress. So when we start you here, if people want to, we do a posture scan. It's simple. We have an iPad, we take a picture of the front, the side, get certain bony landmarks, and visually we can show each client where the imbalances are from the very first day that they start. And every 2 or 3 months we'll do that posture scan, but we'll be reading from that sheet, so every instructor knows what we're working on to get the fastest results.
That's so
but
clever.
and it's always really, like when I do it as well, I'm sometimes like, okay, right, I didn't realise I wasn't quite back here with my chin or whatnot.
Oh, it's
So you get a little taller
terrifying.
there. Yeah, but it's really nice to see it, and it's also nice to actually see the progress. So I wanted like a healthier way to look at stats, because I know we can all really fixate on weight, on body fat and stuff like that. But if we can just look at the posture, work out, that other stuff is going to fall into place anyway. That's how I see it.
It's so true. It's such a lovely way to actually assess our bodies and have really positive sort of landmarks and sort of goals in place, not just, I need to get down to whatever it is on the scales, but I need to get all of this aligned.
Definitely.
And I guess, see that progress. That's how you know you're going to affect real change. What was I going to ask you? Oh yes, so the postural scan is obviously sort of a huge sort of point of difference for Nobu, but what else makes, I suppose, the Pilates offering here different to, because there are some amazing things going on in the city, but what is, I suppose, different about sort of what you've done here as creative director?
Yeah, you're so right. I mean, there are so many lovely Pilates studios out there. I'm a huge fan of so many, but when sitting and trying to figure out how to separate myself from the rest, I guess a little bit of background about me is I'm a classical Pilates instructor. So yes, I teach the mat and the reformer, but it's also this big contraption here, the Cadillac. There's 2 different types of chairs, there's barrels. There's actually 12 pieces of classical Pilates equipment that Joseph Pilates invented. He invented it, it's not something we've come up with later.
And have they changed since? Because he invented them how many years ago?
Oh my god, 80 years ago. But they've changed in the sense that
they're now padded and covered in fluff.
Yeah, he used a hospital bed for the Cadillac back in, yeah, he did. That was what it's designed on. So now we've obviously made it a little cheaper, a little safer.
A little more comfortable.
A little bit more comfortable, yeah.
Thank you.
It's pretty much how it was. And that's probably the thing that I wanted to carry through into the concept, is making sure that we are touching on not just the reformer, it gets a lot of attention, or not just the mat. So my classes do include the chairs and barrels and whatnot. But I think the biggest thing was that I know that some people don't know what Pilates is still and can be a little intimidated by it, so I wanted to make it accessible. And everybody's got their own personal way or preference of working out. So I wanted to give everyone an in. So I've got 3 different classes, they're called Power, Precision and Pure. And a power class would be like your HIIT version of Pilates. It's all on the trampoline, it's flowing, you're going to get your heart rate up.
For people who just want to have a proper cardio sort of workout at the same time.
It's go, 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 but it's also got all the details of Pilates, the postural cues and working with abdominals and stuff like that. So it's definitely a full body workout. And then the precision classes are more approached like a PT session, so you'll have more sets, more reps, kind of working towards more of a burning out of a certain part of your body. And then the pure concept is classical Pilates at its finest. It's mobility, flexibility, strength, balance. It's a little mini workshop. So I just wanted everybody to look at that menu and think, okay, of those 3 things, what's my in to Pilates? And one of those is going to jump out to you. So if you're someone who does CrossFit 3 times a week, maybe you'll like the power classes. But if you're more of a mindful mover, maybe you'll prefer the pure classes. So whatever your in is, you come in, you can do it, you enjoy it, you relate. But then I hope that you would explore the fuller picture of Pilates, which is everything, not just that one section.
That's such a great concept.
Yeah.
Which is the class with the little springboards at the end
that's
of the
power.
Oh, I love that one. So can you tell us about the springboards? They're like mini trampolines on the end of the reformer bed. I don't know if anyone's tried it. Maybe I'm just like a novice.
The reformer that's just here, so this is the tower on the end, the big bit, and at the other end it's got the springs, and you put a trampoline on the end. You're lying down on your back and it's jumping lying down. I mean, who doesn't like cardio lying down?
But it's so energizing as well. Like,
it is.
You feel like you're flying because you sort of, absorb all of the, I suppose, the weight, and then you push away and you're sort of just suspended in the air.
That's it. And because we've taken gravity, like the negative effects of gravity away from it, you're now lying down, it's fine on your joints, like anyone can do it. And honestly, as an instructor, the first time watching someone do it and watching your face get it's amazing. So everybody is loving the power classes. Please come try it.
And does that still sort of build muscle in a sort of, I suppose, safe and sort of sustainable way?
Yeah, definitely. Because of the cues we're giving with it, it's not just sort of jumping around like crazy. There is a lot of like inner thighs to glutes, zipping up the abdominals, making sure your shoulders are in the right place whilst you're doing the movement. So it's mindful, but there's a nice flow to it.
And how are you seeing your clients' behaviour sort of change as they come back into the space? Are they sort of a bit sort of hesitant to get back in here, or are they like super excited and ready to get on the trampoline?
Yeah, it's a really good mix actually. I find, I really honour the people that are a little tentative, because we have been locked up for a while. Like, I remember in 2019, it wouldn't matter if someone brushed past my shoulder in the street, but now it's like, you know, wide berth to a stranger. So you have to honour that, and I totally get why they feel that way. So, you know, that's why a one-on-one is always a nice option. But in the studio, as you see, we've got 10 at the moment, we're doing 6, where we can really space people out, make them feel comfortable, and manage the situation. But actually, there are the other half of people who are buzzing to get back into that vibe of working out next to somebody. There's like a quiet competition that happens that's way more fun.
Yeah,
like,
so true.
Zoom can carry us so far, but it's so tricky from my side, especially to see the body from the screen. I can't see it as well. But person to person, those smaller details.
Yeah, you can miss quite a lot of
huge
cues,
difference.
can't you? I suppose when you train online.
And that's all Pilates. Like, you know, we have the weirdest cues. Like, you don't know if I'm going to cue your ears to your toes to your fingernails. But it's one of those things that sometimes is diluted on Zoom, and it's just better person to person. So yeah, there are some people itching to get back to it, really.
Yeah, I wonder. And if you've not had a look, I mean, obviously this is one of the smaller sort of Pilates studios, but or sort of part of the bigger studio, but there's an amazing huge studio sort of in the room behind us. I think there's a class maybe going on at the moment, but do go and have a peek and see what Marsha's doing in there as well. Thank you both so much for all of your insights and your conversation. It was so nice actually you finishing off by saying that a lot gets lost in Zoom, because actually it's so true, and it's so nice to have everyone back in this room, because you can pick up on like the cues. Again, you can see like, you know, and react to people, and you know, we've obviously sort of had to do webinars for the past year, and that's been amazing, and we've been able to connect with people that way, but at the same time there's a different energy that comes out of having people in a room, and I think the conversation between panelists is so inspiring. I mean, I've learned so much from both of you. It's sort of quite mind-boggling. And I love also the fact that, you know, both of you very much acknowledge that there is a lot of change that we've all been through in the past however many months. I've lost track now, quite frankly. But you know, you've also sort of used that to your advantage, and you've evolved, and you've sort of just, I suppose, applied it to what you do every single day, sort of with the skin, with the body, with the sort of workouts that you're doing, which is amazing, because obviously we need to be sort of strong and resilient and adaptable, and you know, God knows what life is going to throw at us. More thunderstorms, probably.
Adaptable was.
We're going to walk out and it's going to be so sunny.
Just
wait.
Well, there's plenty more cocktails, I think, outside. So after session cocktail hour on the terrace, if it's not flooded and a swimming pool right now. But I think we've got time for a few questions. I don't know if anyone sort of wants to ask away. If you do, now is the time. You've got two absolute.
And you can ask one-on-one afterwards.
You can
as well
also
if you
ask
don't want to.
one-on-one. I think all of these in-person events, people are like, oh,
Yes.
there you go.
Hello.
Yeah.
I just assumed it was for me. Might be so.
With tech neck being quite common, especially in lockdown over the past year and a half, have people been coming in for specific neck treatments, and how does that work? Because you spoke about it earlier.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things that can go on the neck. Tech neck specifically refers to the horizontal lines that come across. Frances was quite right, and they could be completely normal. It might not be tech neck related. We'll know from the younger generations, right? Because they're going to be living through it. But what you can do around there, so the idea is you can use fillers, hyaluronic acid. So you again use one of the really stretchy ones. There's ones called resilient hyaluronic acid, RHA, and they stretch, and they'll be injected into each line individually, either through a needle, small injections, or through something like a cannula, which looks like a javelin, but isn't, because it's round and it's actually quite safe. And you just inject it. You slide the cannula in, and then on the way out you inject little threads of this very stretchy filler. It's really, I promise you, it's not that scary. It looks scary, but it's not.
It means you can't puncture any of the vessels, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit safer. So it's round, so it kind of pushes through, so it kind of pushes everything out the way. So that's one thing you can do. Another thing you do around the neck is these. I've got really good ones. Wait. These bands. They also get tighter over time, and you can trickle Botox up those bands, and that can give that sort of less kind of, if the tech neck is the vertical lines you're referring to, so there's a solution for each. But again, Profilo, Profilo is very nice. That hydrates the skin around there. It tightens it. A lot of the times, those lines where when you have this sort of saggy skin, it kind of collects, like almost like a. Just feels a bit lax, doesn't it? And Profilo is quite nice at doing that. And then you have things like Elance. So Elance is a filler, but it's not hyaluronic acid. It's a totally different compound. and you inject that again in threads across the neck, and that actually kickstarts your body to make its own collagen as well. So that's quite a nice one as well. So Lancet is quite popular in the neck as well. So solutions, I think as with anything, it needs assessment. So you have to come, we have to look and plot together a plan. There's usually a plan A, plan B, plan C. Start off with the safest, easiest, least risky, and then we kind of move up. And then finally, Morpheus 8. Morpheus 8 again can help with that area as well. Sorry.
And also, so when you're doing neck, and obviously that extends into the double chin, are you doing anything with Belkyra? Because that's this new sort of injectable specifically for double chins.
Absolutely.
Really
so it's called Kybella in America, and then I don't know what happened, but they called it Belkyra, and it sounds like an STD. But Belkyra is an injectable a product that actually melts fat in a nutshell, and each fat cell, it ruptures it, it breaks it down, and it can take more than 1 or 2 sessions to get to that point, and it's forever. Again, it's a variation on full sculpting. So if you don't want to freeze it, then you can actually go and inject it. It's had a similar product that's been on the market. You may have heard of Aqualix or Deso. It's a deoxycholic acid. It's basically a bile acid that breaks down fat. But that's quite a nice one. And again, it's supposed to tighten the skin a little bit in the process. But obviously, if it doesn't, if you feel that the fat is now gone, the skin needs a bit of tightening. Again, that's where the other treatments we talked about can come in.
And I guess it all comes down to that combination layering approach.
Totally.
Maybe it's a bit of that, maybe it's a little bit of filler, maybe it's the profile to the neck, and then boom.
Totally. If you have that sort of tighter skin, then like we said about the jawline, so you could volumize and pull it in different ways to create a bit of tension on the skin. So that's another option as well.
Good question. Was there?
Hi, my question is for Marsha. Hey, I would love if you could please expand on the impact that Pilates has on the longevity of the body.
Yeah, I think it's because, and that's a great question, because we are looking at using springs instead of weights. So when you're doing Pilates, instead of using weights which you're pulling up, the springs, you're stretching them and it moves with your body. So it's creating a resistance for you to find against in your own body. So when I take the springs away, that you should be able to perform that. And I am kind of tempted to go on.
Oh my gosh.
Because you're doing
We're doing this in a dress.
Wow. Oh my god.
Okay. Shall we? All right.
Yes.
So,
Please give us a demo.
You're coming on.
There was a reason we went to the studio.
So,
Do you need an assistant?
For example, on the Cadillac, right? So these are called leg springs. I'm going to teach you an exercise which is quite challenging called lower lip. So for example,
There's a mirror as well.
holding your legs like that is quite challenging without arching your back, right? When I put a spring on you, you freaked out. Don't get around that. I don't mind everyone else. Okay, so everybody got flash for a second. When I put the springs on them, you've got something to push against, and therefore your abdominals pull the other way, right? So when I ask you to push a spring, you have to suck your abs in against it, teaching the core connection and teaching you how to hold your legs in space, right? This is helping you slightly, strengthening the muscles, yes, but it's helping you slightly because gravity isn't having a negative force. So when I properly taught you with the springs for long enough, you can go out there and do it by yourself. So I think that is the best thing about Pilates is that using spring resistance is training your body how to manage body weight and how to resist gravity. Whereas, and I'm not dissing the gym by the way, I train in the gym with a PT 3 times a week, but it is slightly more negative in the sense that all the weights go down and you have to figure out how to find your posture, possibly in a very challenging position, where that's slightly easier to engage and understand. Does that make sense?
So
Did
it
that
does.
answer your question?
It does, and it got me like really excited to try.
Well,
So thank you.
So there wouldn't be a round of applause for managing to do that in that mini dress. You were just so desperate to get out of your leg.
I'm not hanging upside down.
Yeah, that's fine.
So normally the fuzzy things, guys, you put your feet in it and you hang upside down, so your head would be on this side, and it just completely decompresses the spine. I'm just going to go.
Oh, that must feel so
And
nice
feels
and relaxing.
So good. I'm very lucky to be a Pilates instructor to do that every day.
There's absolutely no stress going on in your body by the sound of it.
Did I answer that okay? Did I get that?
Amazing. If there aren't any more questions, please feel free to grab anyone on your way out and do any one-to-one stuff. Do have a look at the Pilates studios. Otherwise, I think that's probably us for tonight. Thank you. Amazing beauty triangle. Two-pronged triangle. I don't even know what shape that is. I don't think it's a shape. It's
Line.
a line. Got to cut off my own jokes. And thank you to Nobu, obviously, for hosting us so beautifully. There's no one from Nobu here apart from Marsha. We'll say thank you when we leave. And thank you to everyone here. You've been so wonderful in turning up when times are very turbulent and unexpected, and braving the storm quite literally with us outside to come in here, and it's been amazing to have you and your energy. So thank you for giving up your evening. Don't forget your goodie bags. I'm desperate that everyone puts this skincare on their faces and experiences it, and don't forget to use your voucher and come back and do an amazing
class, guys. It's in there. Please come. I'd love you to try it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone.